right, here is Transformers Studio Series 106 Optimus Primal from Rise of the Beasts. He's got a lot of stuff on him, as you can clearly see. A lot of weapon storage. We'll go ahead and talk about this stuff. He does come with, it's not the Matrix, but the key or whatever, the little MacGuffin they were hunting for. And it does break in half. You can have the two halves of it, and then they peg together. Unfortunately, while he does have some places you can peg it in, like it doesn't really... actually, it's not really a peg hole. And the instructions say hold it in his hand. You can kind of get it in there, but like it's not a piece that is easily held. For the standard 5mm pegs, even the divot here is too wide to get into a hand. You kind of just, instructions show it sliding to his hand, and he can hold it. A lot of Transformers can hold it, but not easily. It's just kind of a loose little piece. That'll go in a parts bin. Like I said, it can pop apart. But yeah, just that little MacGuffin from the movie. I can't remember, like I said, it's not the Matrix, but it was a key to Unicron, or I don't know. I did watch it, but yeah, and he comes with a big choppy axe that pegs under his hip when not in use. Come here, you. There's a little peg hole there, and it can be held in both Gorilla and robot mode. You got both of his swords that peg onto his back just like the previous release of it did, and where Optimus Primal generally keeps his swords. But he's got a couple of cool, slightly more elaborate looking swords that do peg into his back. They also can peg into his hips. They've got the same kind of small peg that fits in these small peg holes here. And then he's got this piece, which it looks kind of like it's maybe like a cybernetic spine. It's too long for this figure to work as a functioning spine. I'm not entirely sure. Like, it does have, again, those little small, I guess it's 3mm peg holes, both on the end and here. You can find your own little way of configuring it. The instructions show making it into like a kind of odd triangle, then plugging it in here, and I haven't really figured out how that works. I just kind of stuck it on there because this is neat. He comes with it. This is really kind of, I think, clearly intended for another figure, and we'll show that off in a bit. Yeah, it's two pieces too that peg together via one of those little tiny pegs, and they stay together somewhat tolerably. The instructions also show him holding each of these individually as like beaten sticks, and I'm like, he comes with enough weapons. He does not need random articulated just whooping sticks. Although I guess it's kind of fun to think of him just like if he wants to play the drums or something. But anyway, he's got those. He's standing up in Gorilla mode here. He does have all of the Optimus Primal toys I've seen all have some weird thing about them. Like, they're all fun, but especially down here in the legs. I think the Voyager class did it was probably the best of the ones I've seen. I haven't played with the big Japanese, like the really dark black and silver one that had the little pop-up red missile launchers and had the forearm guns in it as well. I don't have that version. I did see it, but it was in a solid box and I couldn't really get a decent look at it. But there he is in Gorilla mode. He does have like some bulk on the back of his legs. You can kind of get him. You can fold his feet forward, although it does push his robot feet out a little bit more. And pop those back up. But you see he's got a lot of bulk on the back of his gorilla legs. But you can get him into kind of his head can look up, gorilla-y pose. Now the official instructions do have him with the big fur piece on the inside of his arms and this kind of metallic looking side on the outside, which doesn't look bad per se, but like you can also, like, because of the articulation, you can rotate his arms and wrists around to have that bigger furry piece, more gorilla looking piece on the outside, which is technically for robot mode, but if you want that, you can get it here in gorilla mode as well. And just as a quick comparison, here he is with the Voyager class, who, again, is doing a little bit of weird things with the legs, but I think evokes a more simian pose than all this bulk on the back. I think this is kind of slopes, whereas he actually kind of seems to have more of a primate-esque arch, although it is kind of locked in that position. You don't have a lot of posability. You have a little bit more flexibility with the Studio Series. And then here he is with his little Target Master self as well, who probably looks the most gorilla-esque in the mode, but can't lift his head up quite enough to make that pose work. So they all have little trade-offs. So yeah, go ahead and put this back Whereas articulation-wise, like I said, you've got bicep swivel. You're going to get a lot of the same articulation in the arms as you're going to get in robot mode. His fingers open. His fingers are, in both cases, the first two and the second two fingers are separate pieces on that pin. No thumb movement. But you got wrist swivel. You got a elbow, bicep swivel. These lift up for reasons unknown, I guess, just to bring the arms out to the side. They don't fold angle down the way they do for gorilla mode like they do. They don't flip up in robot mode like they do on the Voyager to be more dynamic. That's what you see there is what you get. His head, like I said, can go from a standing position to a full-on looking forward in a gorilla walk position. His mouth does open. You can get him in a really impressive scream, or just a small little, his mouth is open, or you can push it all the way closed. So yeah. The legs move here at the hip and can go wide, but because of this plate right here and the way these legs come together, you don't get a whole lot of useful range out of the leg there at the hip, aside from out in gorilla mode. The feet are pretty much stumps. You can, like I said, if you want them to stand up, you can bring that straight and bring the leg down to have them in more of a vertical gorilla pose, like that. But that's about it in the legs here in gorilla mode. And we'll go ahead and get him into his robot mode. And also, just a note, if you get him and you see all of this like kind of damage in the silver paint, like at first I thought maybe I had scratched her or it had come scratched, but if you look really close, you kind of see like a digital edge, especially on some of the stuff in robot mode. Like this is tampoed this way. This is not busted. You didn't get a scratched up or returned or damaged figure. I guess it could be scratched in a different way, but there is supposed to be some of these silver painted areas do have some intentional printed scrapey battle damage looking on them. So just FYI, if you open yours up and you think, oh no, it's not wrong. But yeah, the transformation, like, again, the Voyager does some neat things that they don't do here. I think you get a lot more articulation in this guy in both modes overall, but and he has an interesting transformation, and he does some very similar things to the Voyager, but he doesn't have that really cool. I really liked how the Voyager had the chest panels opened up like this, and the robot chest panel pulled out, and they closed behind it, and it closed back up. The chest transformation on the Voyager, I think, is better than this one, but this one still has some pretty neat stuff. So go ahead and you start off, come down here and untab this panel right here, and bring it kind of out like that. Just there's like a little hinge and a ball under there, and rotate it up like that. And you come back here and do the same thing. Unpeg this, lift it up over the gorilla head. Come on, you. It should go over. Maybe lift the gorilla head, point the gorilla head up like that, so you have the clearance. But this comes up. This folds all the way up like this, and this comes down and over it, and kind of covers it like that. And then this piece you lift up like this, rotate it. Once you have the clearance, you rotate it around, and then it's going to peg. You can see there's a peg here. It's going to tab right on there like that. And then this whole assembly just kind of sits on the back. And this is going to tab, this little tab here, it's going to tab into the slot on the panel we just flipped up here to lock the backpack together just like that. You can see that. We can go ahead and move this out too. But that tab on here tabs into what's now the top of the abdomen panel we lifted up, and then the butt panel flips around and tabs onto the back of that. So it still keeps his sword storage here on the back of the robot model. He does, again, something very similar here with the robot head that the Voyager did, in that the monkey and robot head are on the same piece that pulls out and rotates. Although you have to lift the head up like this to get the clearance for the panel, but you want it to go back flat like this for going into the body. And then you lift it up for clearance, and then you want to flip it back up to fit in the chest properly, so it settles in and nestles in. There's like a little cavity for it back there. And then put the chest panel back up into place and lock it into place. And again, he actually has his mouth versus the full faceplate of the Voyager. And again, all these little scrapes in the silver paint here on his, up here on his upper chest and down here on his pecs, is intentional. That is all printed that way. There's nothing wrong with your figure. The arms rotate around. Do they rotate around like this? I'm trying to remember how the arms work. But you do open up this panel here, and then rotate and open up this panel here, like that. And then you'll rotate, they are going to rotate because this ends up on the outside. The monkey fist in. And make sure it's closed all the way. Folds in like that. And then this panel comes down first. You want to lift this up. Actually, no, lift this up, rotate this around, and then this panel is going to fold down into the arm, and then this panel is going to cover over it. And then you can see there's a tab here that's going to tab into a slot inside the arm panel. So close that over that smaller panel, and then rotate it so the big piece is on the outside of the arm. And then this smaller panel, you can see his gorilla hand inside the arm, but this panel is on a dual hinge. There's a pin here and a pin down here. You want to take that panel and fold it down to cover up, hide the gorilla hand, and there is the arm done. Make sure that snaps into place. There might be sometimes if you don't get the gorilla hand all the way in there, this doesn't line up all line up quite correctly, and you got to wiggle it a little bit, but it's got to get it tabbed together. Come on, where is it? There we go. And then we do the same over here. Go ahead and rotate it around. Open this panel up. Oh no, I did it wrong. Whatever. Gorilla hand goes in. All right, you know what? You want to have the gorilla hand have the fingers face in, I believe. Can you do this? No, maybe not. Just trying to turn you into a monkey. Or into a robot. Actually, you already were a monkey. There we go. There we go. And then fold that down. And there, you see his whole upper body's coming together now. Rotate the waist. Actually, no, rotate the waist. Bring the legs down. There's a tab here. There's a tab here. You're going to want to bring this up. The feet come down. The monkey feet rotate up into the body. This whole assembly comes down. Flip out this little knee pad. And then once this rotates down, this piece right here, you want to snap. There's a little, it's kind of a friction held in place. There's a little nub inside the inside of the side of the knee here that's going to sit in this little divot in the silver piece. So you want to clip that into place like that. And then once you have the foot fully down, you're basically going to bring this slot right here in the shin panel onto this peg. And like you may have to wiggle it a little bit to get it all in place. Bring the foot flat. You'll slide past that, and then that should tab right in there like that, and you can fold the knee pad up. And then his robot foot is down there, and you just have him stand up straight. And do the same thing on the other leg. Bring it down like this. Snap this onto that little nub. Bring the gorilla foot up. Bring the robot foot down flat. And then open up the knee pad. And then just bring that up. You will have to push this past. Again, there's a little bit of friction here. Push that kind of past the tab or the panel to tab it onto the knee. You can see from the back where you're going. So you just got to kind of, if you put your finger right here kind of around the ankle and your thumb on the foot, you can just kind of massage it until it lines up properly and plug it in right there. But there he is in his robot mode. And again, I like how often they get, I think I say this in every Primal review, how many different ways they have found to turn a, primates and humans have very similar body shapes. I mean, like in general, we got 2 arms, 2 legs. They're not, obviously we move and we, over general silhouette is different, but the way they've managed to turn primates into humanoid robots in so many different ways is neat. Here he is with the Voyager. And again, you can see all the differences. I do miss, he's got a lot more, as I mentioned, he's got a lot more articulation. I do miss this kind of chest transformation. The chest transformation here is really cool. And I wish there was more of a differentiation between his shoulder pads between Gorilla and Robot mode on the Studio series. Like here, they fold down for Gorilla mode and kind of flip up and give him a little bit more detail. Evocative of the original Beast Wars cartoon Primal. But all in all, it's a nice design. Obviously, you definitely want these bigger pieces on the outside in robot mode. That looks the best. I just think it also looks better in gorilla mode. But that is up to you. The way the arms work, you can twist them around. Articulation-wise, he's got a ball joint head that can move a lot more freely than the Voyager can. He's got the shoulder pad flips, dual hinges at the shoulder, front to back, side to side, bicep swivel, single hinge elbows. He does have wrist swivel, and once again, the fingers are in groups of 2, but the first 2 and the second 2 fingers can move independently of each other. He's got a waist swivel, dual hinge hips, thigh swivel, single hinge knees once it's all locked together, and then he's got some front and back as well as some really good ankle tilt there in the feet. All of his weapons, again, like I said, the sword storage for his back ends up on his back. It sticks out a little bit more than it does in gorilla mode, but it's still, you can store the swords on his back and they don't significantly interfere with posing. If you bring the legs too far back, you're going to run into some stuff. But for the most part, they don't block a lot of action shots. He can hold the axe that he comes with. And again, there's like a thinner piece and then it gets thicker to a 5mm peg right up there. He can, same hands, his hands aren't significantly different. He can hold this little thingamajigger, but it doesn't really stay loosely in place. He can hold, you can have him use the bongo beaten sticks. They kind of fit there in his hand if you want. He also has the swords. The swords can be held individually in either hand. The swords pegged together. If you want to do them facing the same way or opposite ways, you can have him have kind of a bladed spear weapon pole arm type thing. They also, in a lot of the promo pictures on the packaging, how's that for some poppin' peas? But because they have that same smaller peg system on the bottom of them, you can attach them together with the chains and have them hold one and whip the other one around however you really want to. You can combine them into some weird chain weapon and then hook them together like this and have him. I don't know what the purpose of that was. I don't think you see anything like that in the movie unless I just missed it. But as I mentioned earlier, where you do see a chain in the movie is the battle trap. And you'll notice here on the little wrecking ball that comes with him that can fit over his hand, there is a small 3mm peg right here on the ball, so you can attach this to the end of the chain and either have him 1 chain or 2 chain, because that peg is 5mm. It's very short, but it does fit into his hand, and you can have him, come on. Well, maybe you want to do it this way, because otherwise, yeah, you can put that in his hand and have him put his wrecking ball on a chain. Well, again, that peg is so short that it doesn't really want to hold it very well. And because of, I'd seen pictures of him holding it. Yeah, well, alas, he doesn't have opening fingers, so you can't really force it through. Maybe I'm missing an attachment point. No, it doesn't look like it. He has a small peg hole here. Well, that's kind of a shame, because I thought, I guess if you just wanted to have him one, that one, but nope. Yeah, it really is the one with the small peg that fits in his hand better. Yeah, see, that one's actually pretty secure and not falling off, but then you can't attach the ball to it. Well, still, chain will probably end up in a parts bin anyway. So I'm probably going to get like a comment like, no, what you do is you attach it right here in a place that makes absolutely logical sense that I'm just not seeing. And I'm going to feel like a ding-dong. But you know what? I'm used to feeling like a ding-dong these days, so we'll live with it. Anyway, oh, and also, he does have better hands than the Voyager. They're still not 100% great. All of only the little Target Master version, of Primal, the smaller Primal that came with, I can't remember which one he came with. It's a very simple, basic transformation version of Optimus Primal. Can hold the Target Master version. Because the Voyager, he uses the same hands for Gorilla and Robot mode that have this really big, pronounced thumb bump, which keeps this from... He can hold it, but just barely, because it doesn't let it sit as deeply into the hand as it needs to grab that peg for the Target Master version of Primal. But this one's a little smaller. He holds it a little more securely. He can actually hold it fairly securely in a way that I wouldn't feel worried about him dropping it on the shelf. So you want to have him wield his smaller self as a gun. Monkey gun with holding a monkey with a gun. Holding the monkey gun. He actually wields it pretty well. But yeah, there is Studio Series 106 Optimus Primal from Rise of the Beasts. Again, he was worth it on a 30% off sale at Target. Full price as a leader. It's not that he's a bad figure. I do wish that... And this is more of a complaint about the general design in the movie than anything else. I wish he had a little bit more color pop. And he does have... Because he's such... The black is darker and the silver is a little bit more vibrant and detailed. He has a little bit more distinctiveness visually on the shelf than the Voyager does. The Voyager's kind of a chunk of gray with a few lighter bits on him. He's a little bit more dynamic than that. The contrast between the silver and the gray and the black stands out a lot more on him. He does have the mouth plate. He does have the proper green eyes, although they are very, very hard to pick out. They're just tiny little pricks of green on his eyeballs. But overall, I think he's the most articulated. He's actually a pretty decent figure. But he just does. I wish for the price and for being one of my favorite characters, I do wish he had maybe some small pops of the red and blue that the original version of Primal had, just to kind of make him a little bit more distinct. But alas, this is what we got. And like I said, it's a decent representation of what we got in the film. Like his gorilla mode overall, I think is, again, the most posable, and again, most dynamic looking on a shelf with the various fur textures and things on it. But like I said, on a discount, on a clearance, worth picking up, full price, if you really like Primal, maybe. But anyway, there is Studio Series Optimus Primal. Thanks for watching. Have a good week, and take care of yourselves, and be happy.